This presentation is on Zizek's telling refusal to accept everything which is genuinely come in to stand up to its own situation, as Dugan has stood up to his Dasein and to its situation in the form of a homology which transfers meaning from part 1 to part 2. So part 1 consists of a look at the Dasein of someone who is absorbed in a certain ideology. So Zizek is absorbed in the ideology of materialism and announces himself as a Marxist of some stamp, very qualified, etc., Hegelian of some stamp, and also as an atheist materialist. But how is this position to be determined? So let's think about how any position is determined at all. Supposing we have some other examples beside from atheism and beside from Marxism that are perhaps more general and give a greater avenue of invasion into these issues. Physics itself, let's say, as represented by von Neumann, and let's see, just as von Neumann has a special mastery of some calculations which are, for human beings, very impressive. Parenthetically, I say he was practicing since he was an infant. Somehow it struck upon him to practice sort of this Rayman, Dustin Hoffman type of skill of doing certain kind of calculations when he was very small. So he's a born calculator. But let's compare that physics, basic physics, the highest authority closest to Zizek's brand of materialist atheism as we can get. Reality determined as mathematics, or as representable in mathematical terms. But let's make a homology on what Magnus Carlsen, the current ELO-rated strongest player in the world, whether he holds the world title or not. So by number, he's the strongest in the world. He says, when asked, could you get better at chess, he says, yeah, I'm not very good at chess. I'm just good compared to other human beings. So obviously the computers have as far out. It's not astronomical, okay? It's like he's 2,800, or maybe closer to 2,900, something like that. You could look it up. They have something called like the World Live chess ratings, like the top 100 chess players live ratings. Every game played, they changed the statistic. It's probably close to 2,900. But I think the second strongest human being is 2,800, and then it goes down from there. Regular chess players are usually like 2,000 or below. Cafe players. So yeah, the computers get up to like, I don't know, 3,300 or something, maybe something like that. It's not that vastly stronger, okay? And then each year they make a computer that beats the other computer. But so compare this to the situation of von Neumann. Yeah, his calculation skills were pretty impressive for a human being, but not by comparison to what an AI computer can do, okay? Not at all. And in fact, the AI computer strips it way deeper than they outstrip people in the chess player, which is just like 2,800 to maybe, 32, 3,300. But it's more like, or the same thing, it would be like 2,800 to 10 to the third or something, let's say. It would be quite a bit more in terms of what computers can calculate, as what von Neumann even as a very extraordinarily apt thinker in math. But what's the reason that we like von Neumann? But this is where I say we differ from Zizek. Why do we like von Neumann? Because he's a human being with common sense and he could apply that skill. Whereas the AI computer might be vastly superior in calculation, but it's not a human being with common sense. So the essence of the human being has to have something that goes outside of the total formalization of number. And this is how, in a modified way, any materialism must be presenting life. Because otherwise, then whatever sense, if human beings have any sense at all, we could imagine a state of having more sense. And that would be more like whatever the opposite of atheist materialism is, right? And then some kind of buyer beware sticker on that, because of course it could make all kinds of modifications, as everybody knows who does this kind of thinking. But the modifications they take their sense out of our sense. That's what facing up to Dasein means. They have to take their sense out of something which is really one faces up to Dasein and Setzung. But even more than that, and that's what somehow it's clear that type of thing is far different from being absorbed in a specific field where there's always some element of the go from the ability to calculate of von Neumann to the ability of calculate of the latest AI, or from the skill of Carlson to the computer, where there's the quantitative addition of skill doesn't really matter. It's not the main thing. It would be when we just look at that tightrope moving straight, we forget about that the one wielding it is on another plane as well. So yeah, I mean, Zizek is terrible, and he doesn't face up to these problems, and he's squishy, and he's sort of like Robert De Niro on a much larger level in a certain crude metaphor. He's horrible. I mean, he doesn't dare to confront his critics, let's put it that way.